Well, it's week, I think, 5 of shelter in place, and so this week I've had a couple things on my mind. I've had food, which I think some of my close friends will find hilarious that I'm actually cooking at home because I don't think I've used my oven in probably about 3 years before the coronavirus outbreak. And collagen. I'm getting ready for some national live webinars next week talking about the ability of collagen and some of the fillers and injectables that we use that help stabilize collagen in our skin. So I thought, what better than to kind of marry the two on a nice little cheesy Saturday, and we could talk about the collagen and the dermis, which is the second layer of our skin, in terms of food. So let's talk about collagen first. So in our dermis, which is the second layer of our skin, about 90% of our dry weight of our skin is collagen. We're going to use spaghetti to actually symbolize this collagen. So if you think of dry spaghetti, it is sturdy. We can kind of bring it tightly and it provides some support. I could actually put weight on this, yet it's a little bit flexible. And so the trihelix structure of our collagen acts in much the same fashion. It helps provide strength to our skin. And so what happens when we either have intrinsic aging changes, which just means genetically our aging process within our skin, or even worse, extrinsic aging factors such as smoking, such as UV exposure, such as tanning bed exposure. What does that do to this amazing structural collagen? Well, I'll show you. It turns it into something like this, which is cooked collagen. And it's not great. As you can see, it's just not quite fitting into that lovely matrix of the dermis. And it's no longer performing some of that wonderful structural support that we need. And so what do? Well, we want to keep our collagen, which has got a half-life of 15 years. So it's a protein that sticks around for a long time. We keep it like this. And we want to help feed the machinery that helps repair it in a reasonable way. But we just want to make sure things don't get out of kilter so that they're producing more enzymes that just continue to break things down. So for the rest of this food analogy, I'm actually going to use the cooked spaghetti to symbolize the uncooked spaghetti of collagen because, you know, it tastes better. It's going to be a lot more edible. So what do we add to this mix of the dermis, or something we call the extracellular matrix, to make it really truly like skin? Well, what produces collagen? It is some lovely little cells called fibroblasts. We'll pretend those are our tomatoes. And so fibroblasts love being stretched. And when they stretch, they produce hyaluronic acid, they produce collagen, they do all sorts of great things for the cells. When they aren't being stretched, when they are stressed, when they get a lot of UV damage, they kind of become clumped up. They don't have all these lovely attachments to the nice firm collagen, and as a result, they're not producing new collagen. And in the environment of the extracellular matrix, we start to get something produced called matrix metalloproteinases. So a little bit of matrix metalloproteinases, which we'll use a little pepper for that, is a good thing. It flavors the area. They are used as enzymes to break down proteins that are broken. So, you know, even good protein and good collagen needs to be turned over. So a little bit of it is great, but as you can imagine, too much pepper, too much of this MMPs are not a great thing. And so we want to have healthy fibroblasts that are spread throughout our spaghetti, spread throughout our collagen, to flavor this area, to make attachments, to form new collagen, and to produce a little bit of that pepper so it's turning things over. But we don't want to get too much with things like sunlight damage, UV damage, that actually causes the fibroblasts to shrink, to not produce new collagen, and create too much pepper, too much of these MMPs, in particular MMP1, that's going to break down our healthy collagen. Well, what else is in the extracellular matrix or in the dermis? So beyond the spaghetti, which is a collagen, beyond the fibroblasts, which are collagen-producing cells in our tomatoes in this, there's something called elastic fibers, and I'm using little baby arugula and basil to symbolize that. So elastic fibers, we basically have kind of what we're gonna get when we're born, and they tend to degrade over time with things like UV exposure. So we wanna hold on to those, we wanna preserve our skin. There are a couple of topicals that do help produce a little modest amount of elastic fibers, but it's kind of the holy grail. It's what gives elasticity to the skin. But as you can imagine, if you get too much heat, too much damage, too much UV damage, those lovely elasticity fibers, elastic fibers are going to wilt, and they're just not going to function in our dermis very well. So now that we've flavored our collagen spaghetti with some fibroblasts of tomato, we put a little pepper in, just a little background activity of that MMP going on, and then put in our elastic fibers. Well, what else is there? There's something called GAGs, which are big sugars, and they function as hydration and sort of shock absorption in the skin. Now, if our spaghetti was hot and we put in some of the GAGs, and probably the most common one you know of is hyaluronic acid, it's going to flavor this area, it's going to fill in the nooks and crannies of our spaghetti, and it's going to make for an environment that's pleasurable and hydrated. And that's great. We want that in our extracellular matrix. And that really is kind of the magic stuff that are the major components of our dermis, the second layer of our skin, and what maintains homeostasis. And so I hope in this very, very rudimentary cooking lesson, courtesy of me, that you understand a little bit more of the role of structural collagen, how important it is that we maintain integrity, and some of the other cells and some of the other proteins and enzymes that function within our skin to make a delicious and complete meal in our dermis. And so with that, I bid you farewell and have a safe and healthy weekend.